think prayer is a religious activity. If you don't know why men pray, you may think prayer is for those who are preachers. The believer requires prayer much more than the preacher. And you will see why. When you find tyrants or bullies who oppress people, do they oppress those who are strong? It is those who look weak and vulnerable that they pick on. Even the young bullies in primary and kindergarten, they have enough knowledge and sense that you don't attempt to bully a man who is equally strong. So bullies always for the weak. And so if you think prayer is for the apostles, the prophets, the devil already knows that they are sitting in an office. God has empowered them to fulfill ministry. It is the ordinary believer who doesn't know his left from his right in the spirit that the devil comes for. That's why you cannot make the mistake of lowering your guard when it has to do with prayer. Many are deceived, waiting for others to pray for them. And there are many prophets who want to take money from people, and they can call you around 2 a.m. in the morning and tell you, don't worry, I'm on the mountain praying for you. Sir, nobody can pray enough for you. You are the first prophet of your life. If you want your destiny to count, you have to wake up, dust your altar, kneel down there and pray for yourself. Even your biological parents can't pray enough for you. The devil is not resting. He is prowling like a roaring lion. Even the people who were walking with Jesus, the devil came for them and got Judas. He got Judas. And when Jesus looked at him, the Bible said Satan entered his heart. He got Judas, and as if that was not enough, he came for Peter. Until Jesus said, Simon, Simon, Satan desires to have you, to sift you like wheat. So when a man is not praying, he's like wheat, he's chaff before the devil. You can say, I'm with Jesus, the presence of God is with me, I have Christ. If you don't pray, it says Satan will sift you like wheat. The reason you will have weight not to be sifted by the devil is because there is stamina in the place of prayer. He was walking with Jesus for 3 years, but without prayer he was like wheat. Satan desires to have you, to sift you like wheat. The only reason you will stand is that prayer will be injected into your foundation. And so if men who walk with Jesus were at risk of being sifted, is it a pastor or an apostle or a prophet you are working with that you will not wake up in prayer and you go and sleep and say, my pastor is praying for me? Do you know how many prayers the pastor needs for himself? Once in a while, moved by the Spirit, he can remember your name in prayer. But if you think there's any pastor who carries your name to the altar every day and say Nathaniel must prosper, you are joking. You are joking. When he comes to church and makes a declaration, if your faith can catch it, you have caught it. But I tell you, the real insurance for your destiny is your travail on the altar for yourself. And so you must learn how to pray, and you must pray prayers if you will fulfill destiny. This is the battle for every believer. And that's why Jesus did not say apostles must pray. He did not say prophets must pray. He said men ought always to pray and not to faint. I'm not saying pastors are not praying for you, but I'm saying to fulfill destiny, you must pray for yourself. Before I enter this subject, let me show you something. Like I began sharing yesterday, Jesus has paid the price to exonerate us from every force that undermines our existence. Jesus has also supplied everything we require for life and godliness. And so the quality of our life now is not God's responsibility, it's our responsibility. When Jesus died on the cross, amongst other things, 3 things happened. Number 1, the old nature was crucified. The Bible said we were crucified with Christ. The nature of sin was crucified with Christ. The significance of the cross is that that serpentine nature that God hates was crucified on the cross. So when we believe in the death of Jesus, it's not a religious cliche, it's a spiritual transaction. Because when he was nailed on the cross, he became sin that we might become righteousness. So the old nature of sin hung on that cross. That's why Paul said, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. But the life I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God that gave himself for me. Galatians 2:20. So the old nature was crucified. Number two, the second thing that happened was that every devil that had authority over you was publicly disgraced and stripped of his power. In Colossians 2:14 and 15, it said, having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a public show of them, triumphing over them by the cross. So when he was on the cross, what he was doing was bullying every demon that wants to oppress you. And so no devil anywhere under heaven has the authority to oppress you anymore. Legally speaking, the right the devil has over you was withdrawn. Just the way we are seated here now, if anybody comes here and slaps you, you have the right to prosecute that person, because he doesn't have the authority to slap you. In fact, he can be jailed for attempting that. So any demon that tries to molest you is doing it as an illegal entity, carrying out an illegal operation, because the authority he had was stripped of him on the cross. And Jesus did not do it in hiding. The Bible said he made a public show of them. So he triumphed over them by the cross, by stripping them of their powers. The third thing Jesus did on the cross was that he restored our relationship with God. Because when we sinned, we were separated from God. We no longer had a relationship. Remember when Adam sinned and the angel came into the garden, the Bible said he drove him out of the presence of God, and a sword was placed at the gate, swinging on every side, preventing the man from coming into God's presence. Now when Jesus was on the cross, the Bible said, to wit God was in Christ, 2 Corinthians 5:19, reconciling the world to himself, not imputing their trespasses upon them, but he granted them access to reconciliation. So on the cross, Jesus connected us back to God. So the old nature was crucified, the power of the devil was taken away, and we were reconciled back to God. Because of these three things that happened on the cross, every Christian and every believer in Christ has the potential of living exactly like Jesus, nothing having the authority to hinder him anymore. However, these spirits are rebellious beings. They don't care that you have liberty. They don't care that you have the right to live a glorious life. They will come to check whether you know. So the devil knows that right now you have authority over him. The devil knows that right now your relationship with God is restored. The devil knows that right now there is no condemnation against you, but he doesn't know you know. So what he will do is that he will come with sickness, he will come with oppression, he will come with every force to check whether you know who you are. Those of you in the UK, hope you know that sometimes the police wants to check whether you know you're right. And so when they stop you, they say, get down from the car. And you say, why? The moment you say why, they say, kai.